All right, welcome back to another episode of PR Yourself with Leah Frazier. I'm excited, Julie. I'm sorry. And it's coming from a fan perspective because, y'all, Julie has worked with Bravo and NBC Universal and Peacock, the New York City Marathon, which is not going to be done in my lifetime, but I have friends that's their goal. So Julie, your goals. And so she's here on the show because as you're hearing about all of these big clients, she knows how to really make higher profile campaigns pop. And so here from Civic, we have Julie Safer on the PR Yourself with Leah Frazier PR show. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you, Leah. And thank you for your incredible podcast. I always take incredible nuggets away. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, now you're going to be giving the nuggets and I'm going to be sitting back and listening. So I'm always curious about journeys into PR because everybody has their own. Like I'm the attorney and like we were talking about earlier and mindfulness and all these things. And then I found my way here. You have several decades in the business. How did you land on PR?
Yeah. Well, like many things, it's not the way that you think, especially as a Gen Xer. When I was coming up, people didn't have internships. Not like they do now. Not like you have to have the internships. What I had was a job, and I had to have a job because I needed to go to college and I needed to buy books and I needed to have my life, right? I happen to be from Atlantic City. So I am fourth generation from Atlantic City, New Jersey, believe it or not. And my dad said, work in a casino because you got, pay during the summer times in college, you would get overtime and holiday pay. And I thought, this is amazing. This is perfect. And turns out I was working in promotions and they thought, oh, this girl's a little perky. We can put her in with some of the celebrities and the talent that we work with. And so I started working in casino entertainment. And again, this is a summer job. Didn't really connect that this could actually be a building block to something in the future at the time. But I loved it. I thought, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. Went back to college. I did it again summer over summer and decided, I think this could be something. And when I needed to write a resume, that's what I put in the spot where it would have been blank, quite frankly. It would have been waitressing or this casino job. And I was really able to take those skills and articulate them, I think, in a way that were beyond the promotions booth and beyond the job description and actually describe in my own words what I was actually doing and how I was servicing customers and VIPs.
That's amazing. Tell me what were some of the parts of that you loved? Because I'll be honest, sometimes in Dallas when folks come and they're like, Leah, this celebrity's coming, we need you to kind of be the liaison. I'm nervous because I don't know, am I getting the nice celebrity who I perceive? Am I getting someone else? Or it's just you're nervous because they're higher profile. Like what were the aspects that you liked the most?
Oh my goodness. Well, when you're 18, 19, 20, I was kind of like, put me in, coach. I'll do any of it. But I'm a Gen Xer and it was a golden time. So this was when The Bodyguard had just come out. And so I got to be with Whitney and Bobby a whole lot. Yeah. Yeah. It was good times. I got good memories from that. And I got to see Whitney in a very intimate showroom many times, summer over summer. Just incredible, wonderful memories. I know. Whitney's my Jersey girl, and same with me. So really special, and Frank Sinatra as well. So it was really a different moment in time. But I think what I loved was what I took away from that, and I think I build on now, is understanding that every person in the room is a fan. It may not be the fan of what you are selling that day, but everyone is a fan. And you kind of have to find a person's soft spots. What burns their fire? What gets them going? It could be Whitney, as it was for me. It could be Ann Patchett, a author. It could be Jack Kerouac, it could be a band, a certain TV show, someone, the conversations I have about the housewives are epic. The kind of fandom that you spark from finding the commonality. Yes, yes, you're a fan. Oh, good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. It's amazing. That's so great. But what I learned from that was the fandom and all these different types of talent and these different folks coming together because the commonality that brings people together more than anything else is this fandom, and we see it every day. And those are the stories that we're telling, and I love talking about that.
I love you hitting on that because even though it's fandom, it's entertainment, it's kind of like in that pool, even digesting that down for a small business owner and an entrepreneur, it really gets down to how are you pulling together that target audience
Yep.
that believes in what you do, that gets excited about what you do. So I love that there's this common thread. And I feel like sometimes with some of our listeners, they just feel like I can never do that. I'm not big enough, and here you are still speaking the same language, even with some of those larger name clients.
Yeah, and I was a kid at that point, but then when I eventually went on to Edelman and I went to, a big agency and I started working not with talent at all. So it wasn't as glossy. It was more low interest category brands, as we like to call them. God love them, but they were big brands. And I learned how to think um, very specifically and think hard about things that were harder to market, right? And I think that's probably a lot of your listeners are in that position, right? People may not think a paper towel, and I literally worked on paper towels, no joke. I worked on toilet paper, I worked on paper towels, I worked on mouthwash, I worked on toothpaste, I worked on chocolate, I worked on, you name it, a CPG or some kind of consumable category. I really worked on it in the consumer space. And it may not be that interesting to many, but how do you make your brain do the acrobatics that you find the soft spot that we were talking about that is relatable to people? And you can do it. You really can do it. You just kind of have to think, you know, in a way that's not just, you're not just selling a paper towel, you're selling a product that keeps you healthy, you and your entire household healthy. Because when you're wiping your hands dry from a paper towel, you're not spreading germs all over your kitchen and into your family and your children, right? So that was one of the angles that we took. We also took a fun angle and did a contest to put your loved one's face on the brawny paper towel roll with a contest. Do you know Brawny Man? We did a lot of fun things, like how do you make it relatable? How is it relevant to Dallas like it would be in New York City? How is this product actually relevant and how do you get people talking about it? I think that's where I learned when I was at Edelman that pop culture is everywhere. And pop culture doesn't just mean my beloved housewives. It means all kinds of things. The brawny man in your grocery aisle is pop culture, right? All of those things make the culture that we are made of. How do we get people talking about it and talking about it the right way?
That's fascinating. And there's something inside of me that kind of that remembers that, where I thought that was cool. I would want that because it's more personalized or it makes you feel like it's more personalized. So that's genius.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Oh, good, good. Um, but then I brought the talent back around. I went on to PMK. And I, really knew I loved the talent. I wanted to go back to the entertainment space that I had loved so much. But I brought all of that brand strategy with me when I went to PMK, and I started building this consumer brand group at PMK. Did that for a few years, and then, much like I'm sure many of your listeners, broke off and created a teeny company with the president of PMK. He and I broke off and created a little company of two people called Culture Shop. And it was magical. It really was. It was a magical experience, very entrepreneurial, built as a consultancy and grew into an agency. Not sure we had ever really envisioned that. But then we were acquired by Civic, which is where I am now.
That is amazing. Congratulations to you. And I do want to tell the listeners too, I was on the website that you guys won some fabulous awards this year as well. So I'm like,
Oh, thank
award-winning
you.
agency, and you're like, that wasn't on my bingo card. I was just doing what I love to do, and all of the greatness has followed. So that is amazing.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So, one of the things we're going to talk about today are these kind of high profile brand campaigns that you have helped to launch. However, tailoring some of the strategy down for small business owners. And so, as I was kind of going through our notes for the show, and it's so funny because in the pipeline, it's not even published yet, are these episodes on storytelling. And it just keeps popping back up. So even as you talking about the brawny man or this piece of chocolate, or like it's all in when you were talking about wiping your hands and your family, it's like creating the story, and I could see the imagery in my head that connects you to the brand.
Hmm.
And so you've done that for many clients.
Yeah.
And why is this central piece the most important for people to get and get it good?
Yeah. And get it good. That's right. It's interesting as you were saying you're envisioning, the campaigns because you haven't lived them, right? But you want someone to envision them and what you're talking about, if it's a current story or something you're doing in the future or something you did in the past. I found myself probably around 2008, working in some TV work and TV series, and that is much of my business right now. I'm working across all different streamers and networks, and just wonderful originals, scripted, unscripted films, competition shows, dating shows. I can tell you all about those. All kinds of stuff. But I think what intrigued me is I love television so much. I love television. I loved it as a kid. I'm a kid of the 80s. I was raised on TV. That was my babysitter. I loved it. Um, but as I see PR campaigns unfold, they are like a Netflix series, right? Kind of. I think people can kind of look at it. They can challenge yourselves to think in a bit of a different way. It's probably the same thing you're doing, which is, I'm sure 9 out of 10 times just right, but kind of challenging yourself to think of it like a series, right? Because we all are watching these series and we can all relate to them. But you need a really good news hook, right? You need a story that has some continuity. You need a big finale, right? And that could be your event if you are open for a big event. But before that big event, right, which is potentially your finale, you need a whole campaign before that event. The event just doesn't come first. It really doesn't. I think a lot of people do believe that the event component, because it does seem glossy, and a lot of folks will say, "Oh, well, we'll do the event and everything will launch." It's well, we have to do some education first. We have to get people to understand. In the case of a television show, we need them to watch. We need critics to review, and then we need to have an event and celebrate, right? And get the talent talking, or get the executives out there talking about what we've already seeded. So it really is a multi-pronged campaign. But if you look at it kind of like you would a TV show, or the arc of the TV show and the narratives that we love, whatever your show is, I guarantee it has those three things, those three components. And then as you look to post-event, think of it as season two. All right, we just had a killer season one. We're nominated for the Emmy. We're out there. What are we going to do for season two to outdo ourselves? How is our writing going? How is this going to be even better? How are we going to top ourselves?
I think that is amazing that you've pointed this out, because even as you're speaking about it, I'm thinking of some of my favorite shows, and I'm like, yeah, there's so, like, I posted one in my stories today. My sister is here from Tokyo, and we were out having drinks, and she was like, do you think Young, Famous, and African is coming back on Netflix? And I was like, I don't think so, because season two was like 2023. We're getting out of 2024 into 2025. If they were going to bring it back, they would have brought it back by now. And late last night, I follow the whole cast.
Mhm.
One of the girls posted the trailer, and everybody is going nuts. And all of the castmates are posting the trailer. So now we're just hanging on till January 17th. But to your point, if you notice, it's not just that post and then January 17th. There's gonna be this lead up. Maybe there's media. Maybe we see a series of photos from the season or videos that they've done leading up.
Exactly right.
So to your point, it's much more than I have an event and then you just post the Eventbrite link and think that's it. There has
Mhm.
to be some excitement that builds up to
Yes.
the
A
climax.
build, like a
Yeah.
plot, like any plot in any story that you would ever tell. There is an escalation, right? There should be a feeling of an escalation that has a crescendo. But then you do need to figure out ways to maintain those steady beats. But it should feel like this. And oftentimes, I will hear folks say, "Oh, my clients, they want us to be up here all the time with our storytelling and have it's not sustainable." And sometimes we have to explain things, I think, a little differently, right, to our clients. So, when is the hyper local moment? Hyper local, don't sleep on the hyper local because, right? Do
Thank you.
not sleep. Do not
Thank
sleep on
you.
the hyper local. It is huge. It makes things happen. And they are out there. And anytime people say, oh, there's no local media anymore, that is not true. Yes, it's tough times. I'm not going to discount that. But no, people are out there. There are influencers. We work with people all the time in markets all over the country, and they are, excellent journalists and, great storytellers. So, don't sleep on the hyper local. I would definitely say to folks. And not everything is Good Morning America or the Today Show. That the amount of times I hear, get me the Today Show or get me the morning show, the numbers. And by the way, I love my morning shows. Every day they're in my living room. I wake up with them every day. I, you know, I can't live without them. But if you are looking at reach, you may want to consider some alternate ideas, right? And there are tons of ideas that we can come up with, and that is part of the mix, but it is not the only solution. So when people do get some of these more hyper-local hits, or entrepreneurs are looking at, a small business story in their community, they should be high-fiving one another, patting themselves on the back, and really celebrating that because that is difficult. It is very difficult, and it should be celebrated. It's a big deal.
I'm going to clip that and I'm going to send that to all my clients. Be like, Julie said, you should be
It's true.
patting us on the back. But
Yeah.
I love how we're kind of segueing into this because yes, you can build the campaign, but to your point, all of these different layers of distribution, like who is it going to help amplify your message? But switching your mindset where it's not always just about I have to be on TV or it has to be on GMA3 or the Today Show,
Yeah.
To your point, maybe it is hyper local and then some of these non-traditional outlets that you're not even considering that have further reach. So how do you utilize that within your campaigns that you work on?
Yeah. And you're hitting more people that have, much heavier engagement, right?
Yeah.
So you might move downloads if it's a podcast, or you might move, units if it's a product, much faster. Um, I will say that some clients will come to me now and say, "Oh, do you also pitch podcasts? Do you also pitch influencers?" And what I say, we did a premiere in December for a hit show, Day of the Jackal. It's fantastic. Watch it if you can. And we actually had a TikToker on our carpet right next to Access Hollywood, right next to all of our photographers.
I love
So,
seeing when that happens, especially
too.
when I'm like, I have followed this influencer since
Yeah,
day one, and here you guys pulling them in. It's just
yeah.
genius. Genius.
So it's not every case, it has to be the right case, but just like any journalist would be invited to cover, in this situation, it was a red carpet, but cover any campaign, whether it's a virtual junket or an interview, that is like saying, do you pitch radio, or, do you pitch, you know, print. Nowadays, I think 2025 in the election, certainly there's so much conversation about that, but I feel like everyone is caught up with us, right, Leah? Like everyone, and I've said this to people, I'm like, everyone's kind of caught up with where we've been since,
We've
like, I
been
don't know,
telling you to do
2020.
podcasts. We've been
Yeah,
telling you to get on these podcasts. Now that
yeah,
that happened, it's like, can we do some podcasts?
yeah. It's like it's their idea or something. I'm like, interesting. But yeah, I'm glad that there is a new lens on podcasts and what they bring to the table and long form in general. But what I think is going to happen, which I'm very excited about, is more hyper local podcasts are going to be very hot in 2025. And as we see, and I know there are so many podcasts, but I think people are really looking for hyper local content. We're seeing a lot of people talking about how network affiliates are kind of having a little zhuzh right now. Whereas everyone said, "Oh, network is dead." Vulture this morning put out a piece. I was just reading it this morning. Network television is back. All the great shows on network, everything happening on network. So nothing is ever dead. Like, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater ever. But I think that we curate all of our lists with this holistic media mix. And I think that's how we're looking at things now. I told you I was a Gen Xer as a landline.
It's
Um,
okay. Yes.
old. Um, but that it's that holistic uh, mix of media that really makes any campaign rise, right? That's what makes things go, as we say. You can't just have one of anything. Of anything. Some people will say only one broadcast. That's not going to work either.
I love that. And I love the hyper local mix that you're talking about, which sometimes gets thrown out because people have these pie in the sky ideas. And it's just like, but don't leave those folks out. There's actually a couple of outlets here in Dallas. They're just like these random bloggers that somehow make it to some of these scenes before the cops sometimes, or they get there before the news stations. And
Wow.
when we have press conferences on really big civic or social issues, I send it to them and they have these millions of followers on YouTube. And I'm more excited that they came
Yeah,
out than the news station.
totally. Reach. Well, that's like, we have our stations here, like News 12, New York, like some of our, our more local stations, and those will run. And also they run on loop. So if it's on the Today Show, it evaporates. I mean, sometimes you can get it on digital, but not always. But when you get like a New York One or one of the, the cable channels here that are local to wherever you live, News Channel 8 when I lived in DC, or, whatever it may be, the Spectrum news channels, they run on a loop. So that segment that you secured, that local segment, will run like 4 times in addition to online. Much further, has better reach, if you ask me. So,
So don't rule it out, folks. You heard it here
yes,
first. Don't rule it
that's
out.
right. That's right.
And so one of the last ideas that you guys do quite a bit, I was kind of reading up on your work with BravoCon and some of the other fantastic campaigns that you work on, is this collaboration with influencers, community leaders, or other type of collaborators to really make that high profile campaign pop. So how do you engage or figure out like this is the right influencer? Because now word on the
Mm-hmm.
street is it isn't all about numbers anymore. Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
what are we looking for? And sometimes for small business owners, it's the last little bit of their budget, so they
Yeah.
want that ROI. What's some best practices that you guys use?
So, research. Um, I would never pitch a news outlet, come on a podcast, do anything without having done my research. And I mean, truly, like really know it, and not in a cursory way. I mean, really know it and understand, where this content creator is coming from. Um, but you need to look back a little bit. You can't just look at like the last two things that someone did. I would go a little deeper. I would look at the topics. If you can't, read, or obviously you can't read everything, but look at the headlines, look at the subheads. And that's for all kinds of content, influencers as well. But we really hand curate all of our lists, and I know it sounds ridiculous, and there's so much chatter and Facebook groups and so on about Cision, and it's a wonderful tool. All of these tools, Muck Rack and so on, they're great tools. um, but really, I find basic research so much better. I am on Blue Sky now. I don't know if you're on Blue Sky, but I am.
No.
Yeah, I am on. Kara Swisher says to be on Blue Sky, so I said, "Who am I to say no to Kara Swisher?" I said, okay, I signed up for Blue Sky. And it's basically uh, non-toxic Twitter. So
Oh my gosh. Okay. So sorry, light bulb just went off. You are the second person this week that told me
it's
to go
happening.
to Blue Sky.
It's happening.
And
Yeah.
whoever I was with, they showed me in person, like, girl, you got to come on over.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason I note that one is because back in the day, Twitter was my best tool, not Muckrock that I paid into, not Cision, not any of this stuff. Twitter was my best tool to find journalists, influencers, journalists, whomever, because I could see the chatter and I could also see how they were talking to one another. Right.
And they would use
And
hashtag journal request.
yes, yeah, exactly. And they would also, if Kara Swisher, for instance, posted something, she would then get comments from all her friends. Well, her friends might be people I also want to follow, pitch, listen to, investigate, research, right? So it's interesting to see the ecosystem of these journalists, and you can really track it and find it on something like the old Twitter. I wouldn't recommend it now, the new platform. But I do think on Blue Sky, so many journalists are very early adopters on Blue Sky right now. So it's fascinating. If you go on there, yes, this is a tip. This is a hot tip, friends. Go on Blue Sky, get your account, and do some research and find some stories. Like follow all your magazines, follow your local folks, follow your big podcasters. They're on there. They're on there.
That is the major tip. I'm telling you, you are the second professional this week that has said, are you on Blue Sky? Why aren't you on Blue Sky? Somebody walked me through it. And I'm sorry that I can't remember who it was, but this is
No,
amazing.
no.
This is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah,
I'm
and you will really uncover people, and they may be people. Sometimes they're people that you already knew or knew of, or whatnot. I was working on a TV show um, that was a cleaning organization type show. But it was called the Swedish Death Cleaning, and it was about people who were experiencing grief. And it's a book based in Sweden, but it came to the United States, and they did like house makeover type shows. But it was like a deeper, you would like it, very mindful, very meditative. It was really about organization and organization of your mind, like a deeper level than Marie Kondo. But it was really heartfelt, and because it dealt with grief, I had been on, I think, Instagram and reading newsletters of many journalists, and I actually had clocked a couple of journalists who had recent losses. Now, mind you, this is right after COVID. There were so many people losing people. And so it just kind of clocked in my mind. And both of these national outlets wound up covering the show because I was able to pitch them, not on, hey, I have a new TV show, you should watch it, and not preying on any personal situation either that they had, but really meeting them in a moment that I think we were all living and writing something that was very earnest and authentic. And it did work out. It did mean, I said, I think this will mean something to you. It meant something to me. I think the show will really mean something to you. And it did, and it worked. But I think it's because you're earnest, because you're paying attention, you're clocking when people are what they're talking about. What are the things that mean to them? Did they go to Michigan? And I have something going on with Eminem. What is the connective tissue? Like we were talking in the beginning of this conversation, what is that fandom? What is that soft space that we can connect?
I love that because that's just being intentional across the board. And
Yeah,
I've said it a million times, like, don't just chat GPT this blanket pitch and then you send the same pitch to everybody and it's not personalized in a way, or you don't know your morning shows or your news anchors or your editors in that very personalized way. And so I think that's a tip again that can separate you from the masses, is really
yeah,
doing that research and taking the time and being patient. Because and then
yeah.
once you have it, and let's say you're a great guest or you give them a good story, you're kind of in their pocket for a while.
It's true. It's true. And they'll remember you. And I've had writers of the New York Times say, oh, well, Julie's a good publicist. And I know what they're trying to say, but it's a compliment. But I think sometimes they're suspicious. Certain journalists are suspicious of publicists. And really, we help them out. We help them out.
I like to, I'm like, I'm your help. So sometimes I send them stories that aren't clients where I'm like, I know you're so busy. This is what's going on in Dallas. And that helps to create that relationship where it's like, it's not always transactional. I'm genuinely
Yeah,
here to give you stories that you care about. So
yeah,
glad you brought that up, Julie. I mean, you're just
yeah.
patting me on the back all day. We could just keep you around.
And then
So
the last thing you asked me about BravoCon, and I think that the
yes, I'm
interesting,
obsessed.
good, good. I hope you'll come to the next one. But you know, BravoCon is fascinating for so many reasons, and the fandom is again unparalleled, and how that brand has been managed is enviable by all standards. It's really beautiful and enviable. They just do such a great job. But I think what's most intriguing is the people. The people who love that brand are the best thing about that brand. And the brand would agree, right? It is the people, the passionate fans, and what they do for this fandom, and the fan art that they make, and the podcast that they
The
create.
Reddit threads
The
after each
Reddit,
episode.
yes. I mean, the it's incredible. It really is. It is so incredible. But the other thing, that when we actually started doing BravoCon in person, we actually got to meet these fans en masse in person. You realize how underserved many of them are, women in midlife, right? Who are completely underserved. Many brands are not meeting these people where they need to be, but this brand is, and they have captured a very loyal audience. And I think that we're starting to see that now when everyone's talking about menopause. Now everybody's talking about midlife. This is the hot topic. One of my clients is a menopause client actually too, but it really is, and every celebrity's talking about it. It's kind of in vogue. um, but Bravo was really talking to people of all backgrounds, of all ages, for a very, very long time. And it's just interesting. I think now women in midlife are very in vogue, and I'm here for it because I am that woman. So I'm here for it.
It's a big conversation here too. One of our leading doctors here, she travels all over now talking about, she just had a new book come out about perimenopause and all of that. And so we've done
Hmm.
a lot around that because that is
Yeah,
a big topic of conversation.
it
Uh,
is.
I wonder, and I don't know if you've ever talked to him about this, but I wonder if Andy Cohen ever saw Bravo, the Real Housewives franchises, and BravoCon being what it has become today. And has he ever just kind of stepped back to just kind of, let it all just kind of settle in?
Right. You know, I think everyone at Bravo, Andy included, they never take for granted one moment of what they're living. And I think that's one of the things that's most special, and they cherish these fans. I mean, it is all about the fans, and which is why they do these Bravo cons, right? Which is why Watch What Happens Live is live, which is why Andy has a studio audience, right? He wants to connect with fans. And I think the entire network, the brand, they connect so beautifully. I think that, yeah, I think they're like, isn't this great? And even in some of the panels, and you can go watch some of the panels on Peacock. They have them recorded. You can go back and watch them. He talks about that. Like, he's on stage doing Ask Andy panel, or doing a live Watch What Happens Live, like we did in Miami last month. And everybody is having fun, right? This is it's just having fun. So yeah, you definitely feel that energy. And again, it's just these passionate fans, like building these passionate followers. It's incredible. Yeah.
Well, that was very special. Thank you for that little bit of intel, Julie. And just congratulations on everything, your journey, your
Thank you.
career, everything that you've done, and the advice that you've given these small business owners today is just very, I mean, even just the blue sky tip, invaluable. I'm gonna go download it like as soon as we get done. If folks want to connect with you or stay in touch with everything that you guys are doing over at Civic, how can they reach out?
You can follow me on Instagram at Julie Safer, at Julie Safer. You can also email me at julie.safer civic-us.com. But please reach out. Love to chat.
Thank you so much, Julie, for your time. This has been excellent, excellent, excellent. I hope you have happy holidays, a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and all the things that follow.
all the good things in 2025. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye.